Exploration Toolkit features two different inventory systems. First of all, we have the hotbar inventory right here, which allows us to basically select and equip items. So if I walk up to some items here, I can left click to pick them up. That will be added to our inventory. And then if I scroll over and select it, it is going to be equipped inside of my hand right here. Since this is a pick-upable, and if you want to learn more about pick-upables, simply watch the pick-up items video. You can hold E to basically remove it from your inventory like so. So you can pick up and put down objects. You can pick up a key. Now I've set it up so that this key does not have an equipable state, so it just exists in our inventory, but we can then pick up a torch and then press F to turn it on and turn it off. Same thing with these other items here. You can pick them up, put them down, so on and so forth. Now let's also have a look at our inventory window. So the inventory window basically uses the same item system, but if we press tab, it'll open up this little screen here where we have a bunch of slots, and on the right hand side is where we can display the inventory item info. So if I go to pick up some items here, you'll see that they are now inside the inventory, and if I hover over them, we can have a little description of what they are. So this can be good for a puzzle game. Maybe you want the player to pick up different items that they can then learn from and see in their inventory here. Or a horror game where the player needs to pick up a number of different items to start a generator, or a number of items to unlock the required doors. And speaking of doors, we can set it up so that if we have a key in our inventory, we can actually interact with the door, the key will be removed, and we can then open it, okay? And you can even make it so that the key stays in your inventory if you want the player to be able to unlock multiple doors with it as well. Now, let's look at how the item and inventory system is set up. First of all, we have our items right here, and if I select them, you'll see that inside of the inspector, they have an interactable component, which is required for basically detecting clicks, and they have an item component. Now, the item component has a property for the item data, which we'll go over in just a second, in this case, the trophy, as well as some checks. So basically, can this be added to the inventory? Is it going to be added to the inventory when we interact with it? In this case, yes. And when it is removed from the inventory, do we destroy the game object itself? Okay, because when you remove the item, you might want the game object to be destroyed, because that's how it works. In this toolkit, items are not represented just by data, but rather their instances are represented by game objects. Even if it is not an item you can equip, it is still going to instantiate a game object to run whatever logic you want for that item. Now let's look at the item data. Each item requires a data scriptable object right here, which you can create by right-clicking, going over to Create, Exploration Toolkit, Item Data. And basically, each item, you need to give it a name, a description, an icon, and the prefab. Now, if you are having a physical item game object in the scene, that game object will be used as the item object. But if, for example, you want to add an item via code, it will then instantiate this item prefab, hide it, and then that is going to be used to equip or whatever you want to do with it. So that is the item system there. And this all gets stored inside of an inventory. If we go to our player object, you'll see they have the inventory prefab, which is found inside of the core prefabs controllers folder. And this, again, needs to be attached to the player component. So make sure you have that assigned here, as if we want to equip an item, it needs to communicate with pickup controller and vice versa. So on the inventory, it's pretty simple. We have an inventory size, so the maximum number of slots we can have. Can we pick up items, and can we equip stored items? Now, this is the scene for the inventory window, so we cannot equip stored items here, but for the hotbar, you would want to enable that. And then you can also define some starting items as well if you want the player to start with some certain things. Now let's look at the two separate inventory types, the window and the hotbar. This, again, like I mentioned, is the window scene. So if we go down to inventory window here, this is a prefab located inside of core prefabs inventories. So you can drag in one or the other here. Don't worry, they don't need a reference to anything. These will automatically find the inventory at the start of the game. Now, if I hop over into 2D mode and have a look at our inventory window here, I just need to go ahead and enable the canvas. This is essentially just a canvas with some item slots, and these buttons right here, if we select them, you'll see that they have a hover button UI script, which essentially detects mouse inputs, and it can play sound effects and run events. and they have an inventory slot UI, which can essentially change its color based on if it's selected. Not really in the window here, but for the hotbar it does. And it can also then render an icon. And this is all controlled by the inventory window UI, which essentially we just give it the canvas as well as an array of all the slots, and then an item name text and a description text. And this is then going to automatically update whenever a new item is added or removed from the inventory. Okay, now we can hop over into the inventory hotbar and have a look at how that's set up. So the inventory hotbar, essentially, this is, again, that other prefab, and this uses the inventory hotbar UI script, which looks very similar. It also has this little pop-up text here, which when we select an item, it is going to appear with the name and then fade out over time. So yeah, this behaves in a very similar way as well. But when we select an item, it is going to equip it. And if we go to our player controller, select the inventory, you'll see that can equip stored items is enabled, and we have a pickup controller, because if you want to equip items, you must have the pickup controller added. I recommend just having a look at that video as well if you want to learn more about that. And of course, make sure they are all referenced inside of player components. So that is a look at the inventory and item system for the Exploration Toolkit.